What's that?
Good morning. This is the House Appropriations Committee. It is Thursday, May 1st. Welcome to May 2025. It's just after 9 o'clock, and we are here to hear about S56, an act relating to creating an Office of New Americans. It came to us from the Senate and then went to House Gov Ops, where the vote was 10-0-1. And so we have Tim Devlin from Ledge Council and Chris Roop from Joint Fiscal to tell us about the bill. So take it away, gentlemen.
Thank you very much for having us today, committee members. For the record, my name is Tim Devlin, Legislative Counsel.
And I'm Chris Roop from Joint Fiscal.
And before you, you have S56 as passed by the Senate and left unamended by the House Government Operations.
Maybe you want to put that up on the screen?
So I am
do?
not logged in, but I can do that in just a moment.
And the fiscal note is also on our website. Oh, you did it into 2 pages, Chris.
Yeah, I didn't want to look lazy.
Apologies, it's loading now. Well, actually, no, it was yesterday. It was live. Yeah, because I'm not tired. Yes, got it.
She doesn't like Thursday. You sweeten it with peanut butter jelly.
Oh, yeah. Little cilantro on top, we would just do.
Thank you for your patience. You'll be able to see it
Thank you.
now. It's legible to most people.
That's great. Thank you.
So this is a very simple bill. It, in essence, merely creates a study committee to examine the question of should an Office of New Americans be created and what should it look like. So it will read, as many other rote sections creating a study committee do, beginning with section 1, subsection A, creation creates the Office of New Americans Study Committee to make recommendations for creating an independent Office of New Americans. Membership will be composed of 8 different individuals, which none are slated to be legislators, although they could be, because we have various people nominating or appointing people, including, let's see, these entities include director of some are ex officio members, including the director of Vermont Refugee Office, who should be chair, 1 member appointed by Commissioner of Labor, another member appointed by the executive director of the Office of Racial Equity, and 5 members appointed by the governor, who must be a new American with lived experience, and we shall include 1 member nominated by way of 4 nominees. Let's see. Sorry, it's jumping around here. 1 nominee from the Association of Africans Living in Vermont, 1 from the U.S. Committee for Refugees and Immigrants, 1 from Vermont Afghan Alliance, and 1 from Brattleboro Development Credit Corporation, and 1 from Migrant Justice as well.
And was BDCC on here because there's a refugee office down there, and they've had experience with Marlborough College housing folks?
Well, they've been working directly with them. They were part of the group that helped bring the piece in.
Okay. Yeah, that was my thinking on why they picked that particular organization as opposed to some others. Okay.
Moving on to powers and duties, we have in subsection C, the committee shall study and submit a written report to the House committees on Commerce and Economic Development and on Government Operations and Military Affairs, and the Senate committees on Economic Development, Housing and General Affairs, and on Government Operations, concerning the recommendations for creating an independent office, including 1, a summary of current demographic, economic, and public health data regarding new Americans in the state, information regarding the government services being utilized and underutilized by new Americans. 2, a summary or survey of varying successful approaches to providing government services to new Americans in other states, with particular focus on the topics of the roles of education and training institutions, professional licensing, housing, and support for employees in municipalities. 3, in consultation with community-based organizations composed of or serving new Americans, the Vermont Asylum Assistance Project, state agencies and departments that provide services to new Americans, the Secretary of State's office, municipal government leaders, educational institutions, and business leaders to provide information on A, existing state and local level barriers for new Americans for gainfully participating in the state's workforce, economy, and business communities. B, additional government services needed by new Americans, but not yet offered by the state. C, the transfer or consolidation of existing governmental services for new Americans that would be more efficiently provided by the new Office of New Americans. 4, this committee shall also be tasked with determining the proposed structure, duties, funding, and labor needs for an Office of New Americans. And 5, creating a definition of the term New Americans for the purposes of the Office of New Americans. Subsection D, we kind of return back to the mechanics of how the committee will be established. The committee may create subcommittees with duties and leadership to be assigned by the chair. E, assistance. The committee shall have the administrative, technical, and legal assistance of the Agency of Human Services. F, date of report. On or before September 1st, 2026, the committee shall submit a written report required by subsection C of this section. And let's see, meetings. The chair shall call the first meeting of the committee to occur on or before September 1st, 2025. Majority of the membership shall constitute a quorum. The committee shall cease to exist on the earlier of September 1st, 2026, or the date the committee submits that written report. Now getting to this committee is probably the most concerning section here. Compensation and reimbursement. And again, this is just the standard kind of language we use here. For attendance at meetings during adjournment of General Assembly, if legislative member or committee serving in the member's capacity as a legislator shall be entitled to per diem compensation and reimbursement of expenses pursuant to 2 VSA section 0.3 for not more than 10 meetings. These payments shall be made from monies appropriate to the General Assembly. And again, there's no legislators that the membership provisions above do not require a legislator to be put onto it, but contemplates the possibility that they could be nominated by one of those groups there. And then affirmed by the governor.
That's a question.
2 questions. Were you present for most of the conversation on this?
Some of it.
So, in terms of the per diem, several years ago, there was, I know we have a set per diem rate that applies, but several years ago when we had a committee about healthcare inequities and maybe beyond that, there might have been another one where the folks that are being asked to participate on this study committee may be coming from populations where it's really difficult to take a day off for essentially expenses. And so there was some increased per diems for people who would be missing work in order to participate. Was that discussed at all?
Not while I was present, but I may have not been.
Yeah, I mean, that was outside of the, like I said, whatever it is now, 50, is it still $50 a day plus expenses? So I think it was 125 or something like that, but it was a special case that people worried was a slippery slope and we haven't changed the base. Anyway, that's
sort of different, yeah. I mean, there was that bill, right, that
there was a social equity bill, but there was also the health equity bill, committee where people were compensated at a higher level than the standard. And because this is dealing with much more than just, I mean, the list of things that this is going to cover, I kind of wonder if we should issue a report as well to the General Housing Committee. This is going to talk about housing needs and workforce needs, and while Commerce deals with workforce, General and Housing deals with labor and compensation for labor. So it's kind of just curious if that should be, if that was discussed, or if that's something that we should ask Housing General if they're interested in getting that report.
yeah, sorry, I'm thinking about questions too. Wait, and then
Immigration's a federal issue, is that correct?
Yes.
So I don't see any federal immigration folks that it would be invited onto this committee. Wouldn't that be appropriate, given that federal authorities could come into play into anything that this committee might do?
That's not in my position to really weigh in on.
Did they take any testimony to that effect or anything that you were aware of that they?
I can't speak to whether they did or not. Not that I'm aware of. Did that particular issue come up? But then again, I was not present for much testimony.
Because I have a concern. I mean, we see a lot of things that the state is saying and attempting to do that seems to be in defiance of federal immigration law and policy. So I'm
Are you seeing something in specific in this bill that
No,
is about
it's
that?
just-
That I think is another issue.
I know, but in fact that if they did not even consider having immigration involved in it, then I think that's concerning to me, because there could be all kinds of pitfalls or traps that could be avoided if other people were involved.
You responding to that? Because
No.
Lynn has a question.
Oh, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
First.
Yeah, I have a suggestion. I looked through this list of people on the committee. There's 8 people there. My suggestion is that you put a 9th person there from CCV specifically. If you go to the CCV graduations, it looks like the United Nations. Specifically, I mean, it does. There's people from everywhere, all colors, all countries, everywhere. Particularly the Winooski Center, which has always been an immigration center. New Americans have always settled in Winooski, but it's a very clear, it's very obvious. And I think they would be a really valuable person in that
So
company.
here's the thing, we are now veering into policy, which is not our purview in this committee. So if you want to make an amendment on the floor, I think that would be something that you could choose to do. But we are going to be talking about the money in a minute, but that is our purview to be doing stuff as a committee. So I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. It's just that it's not really a committee because it's about policy.
Yeah, there is a blind spot there.
Yeah, and that would be worth chatting to folks about. Yeah. Jim?
Yeah, no, I agree with Lynn, if you want. It could be a floor amendment and it could be something, favorably responded to by the committee, that looked at it, I guess. And I don't want to jump ahead. I had a question about it sounds like this is maximum 10 meetings over the next year and a half. And it comes out of AHS budget, so we're not having to directly appropriate anything, right?
We're gonna get.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
I have one more
I didn't
question
mean
before we
jump
get to
in.
the money.
Well, I didn't want to forget joint fiscal life.
Well, that's why he's sitting here. I think.
Forget me, that's okay.
So I just have one question is how was it determined that the Agency of Human Services was the vehicle or the entity that was do you have any sense of that conversation, Tim?
My understanding was that is where, let's see, where is the position? It's one of the ex officio members. I believe that's where perhaps the Vermont Refugee Office is already located in.
Okay. Okay, I just wondered what the logic was.
No, I mean, it could be commerce too,
Right,
planning and, other things.
right. So they picked one.
But, for Tim, you talked about subcommittees.
Yes.
Is there any prohibition on who they involve in those subcommittees? Does it have to be a committee member, or can it be, can they bring in others, and are we obligated to pay per diems for others?
Great question. The subcommittee would be created of members of the parent or umbrella committee. And they could invite individuals to testify, but not join.
Thank you.
So people can hear from all these folks that are
Right.
being mentioned. Yeah, it's a good point. Mike?
Thank you. Agent, good to see you. Can you remind us what the vote on this would be?
Oh, it's 10, yeah, it's
Unanimous.
there's somebody absent.
Okay, good, thank you.
And I don't know how it came out.
Unanimous vote.
Yes,
I assume it's the same.
in the Senate, I really guess it was the same also. But we could always find out. I doubt there's a roll call. Okay, so Chris. Can you tell us about the fiscal note?
Sure.
please?
Good morning, everyone. So there is a riveting fiscal note posted on today's committee page. And I'll respond to Representative Harrison's question. I mean, the long and short of it is the per diems and expenses are the fiscal impact of the bill. We expect, based on our, sort of estimate math for doing these things, that to have five public members entitled to the per diems would cost roughly $6,200. Some of that cost will fall across fiscal years, depending on when the meetings take place, given the nature of the work and the timeframes involved. And the Senate actually, in their budget, appropriated $6,200 on a one-time basis.
How much?
$6,200 on a.
It's in the budget.
It's in the Senate budget
AHS?
for AHS for these per diems. And you will see that in B 1100 E5 of the Senate budget.
Which we are going to hear about from Emily Byrne after this.
So that $6,200 one-time general fund appropriation, the Senate did account for.
Yes.
What if we did?
And the cost would have to be eaten or absorbed by the base budget.
That's fine.
And that's only for,
Those are for the five public members that are
that are
contemplated.
appointed by the governor.
Right. And, obviously the actual numbers will shift a bit based on who's appointed, quite frankly, because people have different mileages to submit for reimbursement. People have different attendance rates. So we use sort of back of the envelope estimates in a calculator every year to come up with this. So that's the ballpark we're looking at, 6,200.
So that's probably the top end of it.
Yeah, and if you have if in the event you have legislators appointed, as Tim mentioned, it's not a requirement, but in the event that they are, that cost is a little higher. That's roughly $250 a meeting. So, and that would hit.
That usually gets picked up by JFO.
That's picked up by the legislative budget, yeah. So that includes the $179 per diem plus, our general estimates for what mileage might run.
And this goes over 2 fiscal years
Right.
as.
It's due to the time frame of when the reports are due. So you might have some meetings bleed into 27.
FY27, right, not calendar year, right? Okay. All right, any questions? Everybody clear?
It was riveting.
Did I miss hearing from anybody?
Got to give credit where credit.
We didn't fall asleep.
Thank you all for staying focused. So is there a motion to support S56? Thank you, Dave. Any further conversation about this? Hearing none? When the clerk is ready, and I'm sure you'll write it the way it's supposed to be done, Trevor. I didn't say it correctly, but it's just as.
HAC favorably reports, S56 is passed the Senate.
That's easy. Yes, please.
Representative Blumen,
Yes.
Representative Dixon,
Yes.
Representative Harris.
Yeah.
Representative Konsenska,
Yes.
Representative LaRoche.
No.
Representative Rovicki,
Yes.
Representative Nigro,
Yes.
Representative Squirrel, yes, Representative Stevens.
Yes.
Representative Yakubowski.
Yes.
Representative Shaw,
Yes.
then 1-0.
Okay. And Lynn, I'm sort of thinking this might be yours if it's the Agency of Human Services.
Yeah. And I think I'm gonna put in I'm gonna talk to some people about an amendment. I think CCD would be a really valuable asset to.
Yeah, great, great. Okay, that makes sense. All right, committee, thank you very much. Trevor will submit to the report of the bill and Trevor will do the email thing. Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming in. We appreciate it.